Hi, folks. Welcome back to week 5 of marking period 4. We are working this week on the rough drafts of your poetry analysis essays, but I want to talk a little bit about some details that you need to be aware of as we work into this week. So first, I really appreciated your check-in responses to the form for last week. I've converted that to a quiz to make it easier so that I can respond to you and what you're talking about there. Based on the poll from last week, your office hours this week will be in small group format. This is going to give you a chance to talk to your classmates about what you're thinking for your essays, bounce ideas off of each other. I will give you a few prompting questions, but other than that, you will be able to spend that time communicating with each other in breakout rooms through our Zoom office hours. In order for this to work, though, please log in at the beginning of the hour. If you come in right at 1 o'clock, that will allow me to split you off into smaller groups. If people come in later, it makes it a little bit harder to move you into groups. So 1 o'clock on Tuesday and Thursday will be small group discussion office hours regarding your poetry analysis projects. So grades and interims, a few things have changed since last week. So I wanted to go over this with you. First, as long as you pass quarter 4, you will have the option to receive a letter grade for the semester, which will be 1 grade higher than your MP3 grade. Or you can choose to have a pass on your transcript. Just as a reminder, there's no penalty for late work and anything can be reassessed. So if you fell behind a little bit at the beginning of the quarter and you're struggling to get caught up, please get in contact with me and I'll work with you to decide which assignments are highest priority. And then you can go about making those up rather than focusing on everything all at once. We did find out that all grades for classes need to be in one category, so we're going to use the formative category for that. Interims are going to be collected today. You will only get an interim, or you'll only have an interim if it shows that you are in danger of failing in the class. So if you've completed fewer than 3 of the required assignments, you're going to receive an interim, and that's consistent across the 9th grade English classes. But again, this is a great time to get engaged in the classes and get involved if you haven't been. Keeping in mind those grading policies, there's no penalty for the late work, and I'm happy to work with you to determine which assignments are most important. So this week, you're going to do step 5 of the poetry analysis task board. You're going to choose one of the drafting or revision activities and complete your rough draft of your poetry analysis. There are 3 options. Option 1 is to look at an example essay and color code and annotate it. Option 2 is to work on deepening your thesis statement and your argument. And option 3 is to work on embedding quotations. So let's look at each of those options briefly. First, you can choose to do your writing or revision activities before, during, or after writing your draft, but you should preview the options first. Think about what would be most helpful to you and what specifically you need to work on. Think about your Raisin in the Sun essay. What would you have changed or done differently there? When I wrote the comments on those, I kind of made them forward-looking. So I gave you a couple of focus areas for your next essay, and this is a great chance to use those. Again, option 1 is to use that sample essay and color code and annotated it. I posted that as an example last week, but here it's an option as a graded activity. It can be really helpful to you if you need like a model essay to work with as you're writing. Option 2 is to work on developing and deepening your thesis statement. And if you struggle with finding something substantive to argue, that might be the activity for you. You should, if you do this activity, do it before you write, which I think is obvious, but if you get into it and discover that you don't have a strong enough argument to give you something to say in the paragraphs, that might be a good way to do this. Keep in mind that a thesis statement is a statement of your argument, so it needs to go beyond a statement of facts. That means that a statement like the author uses language to create meaning is a fact. It's not an argument. So a more specific thesis statement is needed there. Option 3 is to focus on embedding and incorporating quotations into your writing. And I've linked to the slides presentation our lesson from earlier in the semester on quote integration, which we did before we wrote the Raisin in the Sun paper. And that's really important with poetry. Keep in mind that integrating quotations is a persuasive strategy. It shows that you know what you're talking about and what you're working with. So office hours this week. Tuesday and Thursday, remember to come at the beginning of the hour. The link will remain the same, but we'll split off from there into smaller breakout groups. From 1:45 to 2 o'clock, I'm going to set up a Google Meet that you can join directly from Classroom. That might help those of you who've had trouble accessing the Zoom discussions. I intended to do that last week, but it wasn't working. So this week, I think I have it figured out and we should be ready to go. You can always email me at any time with questions. So head on over to Classroom and take a look at the activities related to the rough draft. There'll be a separate video posted there explaining in a little bit more detail what each of the options are. Have a great week, and I'll hope to see you in office hours this week.